Hey, fellas. Wherever I go, the wind follows. And the wind, it smells like rain.
So it really feels like Spider-Man Noir might just be the perfect opportunity for Marvel to bring Scarlett Johansson back into the mix. And honestly, I'm starting to think Nicolas Cage's upcoming Spider-Man Noir series might be diving into one of the darkest, most disturbing ways Marvel has ever taken out any version of Uncle Ben. So let's break down everything we know so far about this wild new series. The upcoming Spider-Noir series might be Marvel's darkest take on the Spider-Man mythos yet. And there's something about this project that makes it feel like we're in for more than just another alternate Spidey story. What really catches the eye, aside from the fact that Nicolas Cage is returning as the gritty, trenchcoat-wearing Spider-Man, is the growing speculation that the show might adapt one of the most gruesome Uncle Ben deaths ever written in the comics. If that ends up being the case, this series could seriously stand apart from anything we've seen before in the Spider-Verse. Among all the upcoming Spider-Man content, movies, spin-offs, and shows, Spider-Noir stands out for a few reasons. First off, it's not a continuation of Peter Parker's usual story. It doesn't even take place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the world of Into the Spider-Verse. This is something separate, something a little more stylized and a lot more intense. With Cage playing this noir version of Spider-Man in live action, the show is diving into a whole new timeline with its own rules. And because of that, there's still so much we don't know about the plot, which only adds to the intrigue. Now, if you caught Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, you probably remember the animated version of Spider-Noir from the end of that film. Cage's voice gave the character a real edge, cool, dry, and mysterious. But this time, we're moving from animated multiverse antics to something a little more grounded and gritty. The live-action version is being kept under tight wraps, which makes sense because the source material it's drawing from has some seriously wild and disturbing moments. One of those, without a doubt, is the horrifying way Uncle Ben dies in this version of the story, and I'm starting to believe the show is planning to go there. In the teaser that's already out for Spider-Noir, we get a quick glimpse of something that seems innocent at first, an older man with a cane, hunched over and surrounded by goons. But for fans familiar with the comics, this is anything but normal. That scene may actually be referencing one of the most chilling villains from the Spider-Noir comics, Vulture. And no, not the flying tech-wearing Adrian Toomes we've seen in the MCU. This version is something else entirely. In the Noir universe, Adrian Toomes is a sideshow performer with grotesque habits. At first, he's seen eating chicken heads as part of his carnival act, but that bizarre appetite takes a horrifying turn when he develops a taste for human flesh. Eventually, he becomes part of Goblin's gang, and that cannibalistic side of him resurfaces in the worst way possible. So, when you mix that version of Vulture with a story about Uncle Ben's tragic end, things start to get really grim. And here's where the pieces start falling into place. In Spider-Man Noir, Uncle Ben's death isn't the quiet off-screen tragedy we've seen in so many versions before. Instead, it's a brutal and deeply unsettling scene. Ben is targeted by Norman Osborn, aka the Goblin, because he dares to organize a strike against the sweatshops exploiting workers in 1930s New York. As punishment, the Goblin sends his henchmen after Ben. And among those thugs, Adrian Toomes. Ben is beaten and mutilated, and the comics suggest that Toomes literally devours parts of him. It's shocking, it's raw, and it's the kind of moment that completely redefines Peter Parker's origin story. Instead of just losing his uncle to senseless crime, this Peter sees his uncle's body torn apart by monsters dressed as men. That would be more than enough to push anyone over the edge, even more so in a noir setting where justice isn't always handed out cleanly. So when the teaser for Spider-Noir shows that strange man towering over someone on the ground, I wouldn't be surprised if that someone is Uncle Ben. Especially since there are armed goons flanking the man in the shot, something that lines up perfectly with the comic book version of the Goblin's enforcers. If the series is following the usual path, where Peter's story starts with Uncle Ben's death, this could be the show's twisted version of that iconic turning point. And since this isn't your typical Marvel project, the creative team has the freedom to take these dark elements from the comics and really lean into them. Noir storytelling thrives on harsh consequences, tragic backstories, and morally gray heroes. This could be Marvel's chance to explore Spider-Man's beginnings through a very different lens. A world in black and white. A world where justice comes with blood on your hands. A world where Spider-Man doesn't just stop criminals, he hunts them. But it's not all just horror and violence. There's another intriguing possibility tied to this series, the return of Scarlett Johansson. Although she famously bowed out of the MCU after Endgame, Spider-Noir might be the key to bringing her back into Marvel's ever-expanding multiverse. And the reason for that has everything to do with a character from the comics named Checkpoint Red. Now, this version of Black Widow isn't exactly Natasha Romanoff, but she's pretty close. First introduced in the Spider-Man Noir comics, Checkpoint Red is Earth 9214's version of Black Widow. She's deadly, acrobatic, and full of mystery, with a look and skill set that's very similar to the MCU's Black Widow. She even rocks the black outfit and red hair. Her presence in the comics adds a whole new dynamic to Peter's story, and it opens the door for Scarlett Johansson to return, not as the exact same Black Widow, but as a new version that honors the original while letting her do something fresh. In the comics, Checkpoint Red meets up with Spider-Noir while he's hunting down Electro and dealing with threats from abroad, including the rise of the Third Reich. They end up traveling across continents to find her, and when she finally shows up, she proves to be more than just a support character. She's a force of nature. And when she's betrayed during a tense mission, she shows off skills that definitely scream Black Widow. Because the live-action show seems to be sticking closely to this noir universe, bringing in Checkpoint Red makes a lot of sense. It would allow Marvel to play with multiverse concepts without undoing Natasha's sacrifice in Endgame. Scarlett could return to a role that feels familiar but is completely new, one shaped by espionage, violence, and survival in a 1930s setting. Even if Johansson doesn't return right away in the first season, there's a good chance Checkpoint Red will make her way into the show eventually. That kind of character is just too good to leave out. So, whether you're here for a more brutal Peter Parker, a twisted version of Vulture, or the hope of seeing Black Widow back in action, Spider-Noir is shaping up to be one of the boldest Marvel projects on the horizon. And honestly, with the multiverse wide open, anything can happen. And that's that for today's video, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.